Marko Stamenić is the newest member of Red Star Belgrade. He will finish this half season, so to say, with Copenhagen, and then he will sign with Red Star as a free agent in the summer. The contract will be until 2027. He is only 20 years of age. He plays the central midfield, central defensive midfield position. 11 appearances for New Zealand, New Zealand's national team. 6'2". So in terms of a player in that midfield position, he's a little bit different in terms of characteristics than the other players that we've kind of had, with Kanga and Kangwa and Srđan Mihajlović kind of being shorter players. I don't know about Mihajlović, actually. He might be a little bit taller, but Stamenić is tall, kind of lanky. So it's a little bit of a different kind of player than what we've had in the club before. So his ability to switch play from one side of the pitch to the other is really good. Like some of the stuff that you'll see on YouTube, and it's unfortunate that Copenhagen is not in the Champions League or Europa League anymore, because they finished last in the Champions League. Therefore, they don't go to the Europa League. But if they finished third, they would have. Because I wanted to watch some of his matches, just because now you're getting kind of down to the knockout round, and this is when the best players kind of come out and shine, which is unfortunate that they're not through. But yeah, just his ability to switch play from one side of the pitch to the other is really good. Pinpoint passes, and even when they're when the ball maybe goes a little bit longer than it should, his kind of wingers have the necessary speed to kind of catch up with the ball, which we honestly have a Red Star as well, with Stefan Mitrovic and Osman Bukhari, who can really chase down a ball. So kind of I was impressed with that aspect of his game. At the position that he plays, duels are going to be very important for him. Judging by the statistics, he doesn't really do that well in defensive duels, which can go a long way, especially the position that he does play. So that's something that probably going to need to work on when he gets to the club, and hopefully he gets better at it. In this final, I think they only have like 6 or 7 matches left in the Danish league, but that's something that he kind of needs to work on a little bit. And I think his height and he just has really long legs to where he does cut off passes or intercepts passes. He does that very well. The anticipation and kind of reading the game, he does well in that aspect of his game, and he has a motor where he's going to chase down the defenders, whether that's center backs or the right backs, left backs, whatever the case may be, and try to regain possession. So he kind of does that. It's that thing where a player kind of gets all the stamina into him, and he's just willing to chase down a player. He's had a couple of those plays as well, which is something that you kind of want to see as well. You want to see it honestly from your more attacking players, but with Red Star going forward, I don't know if this club is really married, so to say, to a particular formation. Even in this second half of the season, they came out against Vojvodina in a 4-2-3-1, which I was kind of surprised, because we did hear that Katai might be able to play up top with Pešić, and I thought it was going to be maybe something with 2 attackers or with 2 strikers or something along the lines of that, 4-3-3. But anyways, that's a question for the summer, and we'll see what happens with the coaching situation and if Milos Milojevic stays there or not. Yeah, so that motor part of his game is something that I kind of like as well. At age 20, he's not very experienced, but he did fairly well in the Champions League matches that Copenhagen did have. So they had a really tough group with Borussia Dortmund, Manchester City, and I believe Sevilla was in the group. So they only managed to get 3 draws and 3 losses. But they drew Man City. So, and one of the matches he was rated a 7 on SofaScore, whatever the site is. Which I think that part of is important. So I say that he's not experienced just because of his age, and then he is kind of experienced because he is a 20-year-old who does have Champions League matches under his belt, which is going to go a long way, especially with what Red Star is kind of starting to prepare for. So if they finish first, and I mentioned this in other videos, they will go directly to the Champions League. If they do finish second, then they're going to have to go through, I think it's the playoff of the Champions League, in which then if you lose, you kind of get knocked out to the Europa League. So very, very, very important season in Serbian football as a whole. And I think that aspect of him bringing, Champions League experience to the club, I think is very important. And with this signing, where does that leave some of the other players? Gelor Kanga, Veljko Nikolic, Nenad Krstičić, who's probably gone, Slavljub Srnic, another player who's probably going to leave in the summer. And then you have youngsters like Nikola Stankovic and Petar Stanic. By now we kind of expected Petar Stanic to have a little bit of a bigger role with the club. But he's been, sent on loan at the start of the season to Spartak Subotica, where he's going to spend the second half of this season as well. There were rumors that he was going to be brought back and then maybe sent to another team, but he's going to stay in Subotica. And then Nikola Stankovic is at Napredak Kruševac, where he played the full 90 this past week. So that's excellent for him, excellent for his development. We'll kind of see what we have with some of these players, but I think this summer we could see a clear out at that position, especially with some of the aging players that I had, like Krstičić, for example, is, I think, not mid-30s, but he's 33, 34. Gelor Kanga is, I think, 31, 32. So they're kind of aging. Veljko Nikolic just had a lot of injuries and just hasn't been able to kind of stay consistently healthy to kind of claim a spot in this team. So we'll see what happens with that. So, you're going to have probably Kangwa and Stamenić in that role there, and you have Srđan Mihajlović as well, who I actually think is pretty decent. And it's going to be interesting to see what he does, in some of these Champions League matches. And then I think kind of the biggest question mark, or the people who have the most pressure on them, are Marko Marin and his scouting staff, because the last 6 or 7 months, we haven't done a good job. The last two transfer windows, I said, actually really the last transfer window from last summer, I don't think we did well with the players that we signed. I think we left everything to the last day, as we always do, and then we were left with our 7th option for center forward, which was Khalifa Koulibaly, who hasn't offered much of anything at the club. So that's an issue. And with some of the players that we have coming in the summer, like we have Piro Lajenka and Uroš Spajić, so there's a lot of pressure on these guys to get the signings right, because again, finishing first, you're assured of Champions League football. You don't have to go through qualifying. You're going straight directly to Champions League. So there's a lot of pressure, and we've whiffed on a bunch of players after being really good the last couple of seasons. And there's a lot of pressure. I think this is probably the first time in, I would say, 5-6 years that there's like real pressure now to get these signings right, just because of the poor transfers that we've had in the last year and a half to 2. And there's a lot of pressure, and this is Marko Marin's obviously his first year, I believe, now as an official scout with the club. So there's a lot going on. I'm looking forward to the second half of the season, and then to kind of prepare for Champions League ahead. Let me know what you guys think of the signing, if you guys have watched Marko play. Obviously Serbian roots. His father is Serbian, his mother is from I believe from New Zealand. He grew up there, and at 17 or 18, he came and he started playing football in Europe, and he's kind of skyrocketed the last year and a half. There's rumors, even in November, December, that Red Star was really looking at adding him, and they kind of went quiet, and then all of a sudden, ready to sign him, and he's going to be with the club at the start of summer.